Welcome back to the Blindsiders. I am joined here by Brian, and we are here to talk about episode 11 of Survivor 41. I thought it was an interesting episode. I thought there was a lot of good in the episode, and if not for the do or die twist being, as we predicted last week, spectacularly stupid, I think it would have been, in my opinion, a top-tier episode, but that twist definitely brings it down a few points for me. What do you think?
Yeah, bad twist. I guess the only thing I can say about it that's positive is I thought it was worse when I first heard about it. I thought it was the person would get automatically eliminated or have a coin flip on the spot to get eliminated, and then they would still vote somebody out. I thought it was just a way to do a double boot. That wasn't the case, even if Deshaun picked the incorrect box, which we'll get to. I'm sure we have a lot to say about probability and choosing. We already talked about it off the podcast, so I'm sure we'll bring in here. But yeah, bad twist, unnecessary. Time suck, but that's Survivor, baby.
Yeah, well, I think that regardless of whether or not he's eliminated at the challenge or at tribal council, I guess it allows him to strategize for the round either way. But for me, there's not really much of a practical difference.
Yeah.
The main thing is the mechanism behind him being eliminated or not, and then also if he doesn't get eliminated, he has immunity, which I don't think that was super clear within the spoiled information that came out.
No, it's not, because honestly, kind of worked out. Yeah. As well as it could have. And when the whole information of it, if I'm on the bottom and I know I'm going out, yeah, of course I'm going to play in immunity. And worst case, I go out first and I have a 50-50 shot of being safe anyways.
50-50. It doesn't end up being 50-50, but...
No, it didn't. But they did, yeah, right.
Yeah. Either way. I don't know if I still would have played unless I felt particularly in danger. I was definitely surprised to see 5 out of 7 people end up playing. We'll get to that after we talk about some of the post-tribal council kind of drama and conversations that happen here. You want to begin, I guess, with the Ricard and Deshaun stuff that becomes relevant to the tribal council?
Yeah, I was a little, I don't know if confused is the right word, but I was a little misunderstanding, I guess, what Deshaun was potentially griping about. But that's also because I've read, Shan's exit interview, and I thought he would have been aware necessarily why Shan would think that Deshaun was being more of a snake, just based on their interactions, which the way Shan put it, Deshaun really went hard on the we need to stick together, we need, I know it's being called the camp out, but this alliance, it's important for all of us to stick together, to provide a positive example, to show people it can be done. And then he turns around and stabs Shan in the back. That's a little tougher to swallow than what seemingly was a purely game move from Ricard. And while it's not fair that Deshaun has to, play the game around these issues, it is understandable why Shan would be upset that he chose to I don't want to say weaponize, but chose to rely on that as a way to gain her trust, only to snake her.
Yeah, and to be clear, it's very kind of iffy as to how much Deshaun actually had agency in making the decision to completely turn on this Black Alliance, because the timeline from last week is basically Danny and Deshawn decide that they want to target Ricard to weaken Shan while still, wanting and intending to be loyal to the Final Four, but still trying to make this move behind Shan's back. They make the incorrect decision to bring Liana in on it. Liana rats the plan out to Shan. Shan takes it as basically a slight against her, that they're being disloyal to her and targeting her in this way by targeting her number one ally and leaving her out of this plan intentionally. She then fabricates a plan to go after Deshawn, and then reactively Deshawn refabricates a new plan, or mostly goes along with the plan that Ricard brings to him to go after Shan. So it's kind of up in the air as to who took the first shot in terms of turning on this Black Alliance, because the issue is does it count for them to do something behind Shan's back? Does that count on as turning on the alliance? Does targeting Ricard count as taking a shot at Shan, even if they still intend to go to the end with Shan? So yeah, it's a lot of kind of difficult strategy and a lot of kind of loopholes in this idea of being loyal to an alliance.
Right.
So
yeah, and now Ricard, I it's always a good strategy if you get voted off from Big Brother or Survivor, and you kind of want to toss a grenade on somebody to be all right, this person has my vote, do with that information what you will. It's never a purely respect thing. There's always ulterior motives to publicly declaring who you're going to vote for.
Yeah, no, it's
outside of if you're the fourth place person and
sure.
There's no, Malcolm saying Denise has my vote.
Right. When there's no more strategy to be done. Yeah.
Right.
It's kind of unclear to me if that was what Shan intended to do, because from my perspective, it seems like that was legitimate. She actually considered Ricard to be the player she wanted to win, and she considered Deshawn to be a snake that she doesn't want to win. So it seems like, if anything, if that was a takeaway that the players in the game were going to be using, it was not intentional. I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah, no, I don't think necessarily she meant it the way I'm saying. I was more just saying in the future, if you
100%.
Survivor and you're salty at someone in particular, you can always use that.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of, a blood versus water. Hayden kind of is somewhat similar when he's on the edge of being voted out for that entire round. He's basically fine, vote me out, but if you vote me out, then just know that Tyson is winning the game. So whatever, you're just signing your own loss over to Tyson. So and he was right.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that it can be used offensively, but I feel like it doesn't often get used offensively in a successful manner.
No, I can't remember many people doing it. To be sure.
And even here, we leave this episode, in my opinion, Ricard being in the best position.
Yeah, I mean, hey, bad on us. We thought Ricard was going to be, without a paddle.
We'll talk to him. We'll get there.
He had a Final Four with that.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. We'll get there, like you said.
So, I guess what was the next thing we could talk about here? I guess we could talk about the Liana situation, where Liana does, in my opinion, which is the bad thing to do when you're left out of a vote, which is to be I'm a wild card now. I can do anything, I'm completely free to do anything that I want. I have no loyalty or whatever to anything, so...
Yeah, no, realistically, the best thing to do if you're blindside on Survivor is to, take a minute, collect yourself, and then, try to get revenge later, you probably shouldn't confront people immediately off of tribal council, especially where it's like I hear like you go to tribal and then you like get sequestered off, and then you have to take a boat ride back and you're not allowed to talk, like just stewing in the negative emotion. Nothing's going to come out like particularly how you want it to or how it would be advantageous for it to come out for you as a player.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm trying to think. There was an example recently of a player who, like, I think it might have been like, was it Nick and when he was at war, or Nick and no, it was Nick and DVG, I think, right? Who got blindsided on the vote, and then afterwards, like, came back and was just like, okay, just let me like, or maybe it was Adam actually. Adam, somebody. There was some recent player.
I do remember Adam and Zeke sitting after the Mari vote, and Hannah trying to talk to them, and then both being like, "Can you please just give us a minute to like process this?"
Yeah. No, I think that definitely, like, just take a few minutes to yourself to like, make sure that you're not going to have an emotional reaction, because it's never going to be good. But then after that, they do Liana and Deshawn, and also I guess Danny is, I guess, included in this, reaffirm their trust. Be like, okay, Deshawn says, I don't even want to know how to spell yes, like, because I'm not going to write your name down.
Right.
Despite her being the backup vote, the last vote. So, obviously he wasn't that upset about the idea of her being eliminated if she hadn't played her idol. And then we see at the end of the tribal that they did intend for her to stay. So technically, this was a productive conversation, regardless of the way Liana may or may not have handled some of the post-tribal stuff.
No doubt.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. That's
it.
Legitimately it. That's literally it. We got a immunity challenge like 50 minutes into the show because half of the episode these days is the tribal council. Although the tribal council in this episode
was good, yeah,
it was meaty and good. So, when we get the twist.
Yeah, bad twists, as we said. If you're on the bottom, it's whatever twist, honestly. But like, if you're at the top, no way you play, or even in the middle, no way you play in this challenge. You go and sit your butt down.
Yeah, this was actually weird because I feel like at Tribal Council, when it was revealed that Heather sat out, it looked like the jury, and in particular Evie, made a face that was like, why would you sit out and not take this risk? And it's like, well, I mean, it's Heather, like, this is pretty much the only way she's getting eliminated from the game, is if she takes this risk and loses.
Yeah, I mean, I think that goes into the, like, Eliza Orland's school of thought on Twitter. You never throw a challenge, you never don't give 100%. When it's like, no, there are times where you can throw challenges and times where you can sit out of stuff. Like, it's fine.
Yeah, no, again, if you're not, like, explicitly worried that, like, if you... I don't know, what do you think the number is? Like, where do you think the, like, odds are of, like, how worried you would have to be in order to play? Because I would say, like, if I think I have, like a 35 to 40% chance of getting eliminated, I think I play. That's probably the line for me.
Yeah. I think you have to just be cognizant of, what the twist is. Like, Deshawn could be safe, so that throws a little bit of a wrench in it. If you're on the bottom, what your potential, hierarchy in the pecking order is. Obviously, Danny is the second choice if Deshawn doesn't go or is safe, so I think that's right for him to play there. Liana didn't play, but I don't hate it because I think, she's got two people ahead of her in the pecking order of who's going to come out. Worst case scenario is what happened, where someone won immunity and the person who would have been before her won the game of chance.
Yep.
And that's really the only scenario where she goes out this round. So I think if I'm Liana, I'm also not playing, and I can't really fault her for not playing because a lot of stuff went wrong for her to be the one voted out.
there's a lot of this is a big episode for like making the correct decision gets you punished, and making the incorrect decision rewards you,
Yeah.
as we'll talk about later.
Big win for the results oriented crowd out there.
Yeah, exactly.
Huge dub.
A huge W for people who don't understand that outcome does not equal probability. Because yeah, I agree. I think that it definitely looks bad on paper for Liana to be one of the two people to sit out of the challenge, and then also end up being eliminated. But I agree that like she should be like, if we assume this 4-person alliance is real and sticks together, she should be the 3rd out of 3 in terms of targets, and she for sure just got unlucky that targets 1 and 2 both ended up with immunity by the end of the episode.
Yep. Yeah, you can't do anything. Like she literally did nothing. She sat there and everything went against her. So
yeah, at the final 7, like, if you're like the number 3 target at the final 7, 90-something% of the time you're fine, right?
Yeah.
She just got unlucky.
Exactly.
Yep.
So Liana, if the internet's giving you shit, we at least are not. That's
at
not
least
just
for,
because you're Ben's winner pick.
I mean, look, I will 100% give Liana shit for other aspects of her game, but this decision in particular seemed fine.
Yeah, and with what Deshaun was saying, like, hey, if I get out on this, you can never say you voted me out. Like, I was like, good, yes, this will also be the out I have for picking you as my winner pick. Like, who knows? He would have won if he stayed. Who knows? Well, now we'll find out.
Yeah, now you don't have that out. And now if he gets eliminated next week, gonna look additionally bad.
Yeah, if anything, if he wins now, people are gonna be like, yeah, but he would have gone out at Final 7 had he not, gotten his twist. So
if he hadn't lost the twist and then made the incorrect decision and got lucky. So yeah, real kind of people talk about like backing into wins. Like, obviously Deshaun is like one of the better players in the season regardless, but still, like, we talked a number of times about Deshaun making mistakes in the past and kind of not end up mattering.
Right.
So yeah, Danny wins the immunity challenge, which is great, because I guess the one thing we didn't talk about from before the challenge is we do get some personal content from Danny, like basically the first personal content for him for the season, where he talks about how this 25th anniversary of passing of his father, who died when he was a child in a car accident, which is awful.
It's really fucking sad. Like,
yeah.
And then him talking about his inner turmoil, about how he felt about the whole situation. I was like, God damn, this is sad. And it made you happy for him when he pulled out that immunity win with everything going on. So, wish we'd seen more of Danny before this. I feel like he has more of a story to tell, but the show's not showing us it.
Yeah, no, 100%. I think that this was like a great kind of narrative for us to kind of get a better view of him. We got like a huge montage of him with his family and his mom and presumably his wife and kid. And yeah, I mean, it was like a really good 3 to 5 minute segment on the show.
Yeah, and now like with how everything's edited these days, I'm like, does Danny win? Maybe.
Yeah,
Who's to say?
Well, if we're gonna get into like edit reading, I think this was like a mini arc because he won the challenge, right?
Right.
Like, I think if he doesn't win this challenge, I don't even know if we get this content.
It's true. That's a good point.
So yeah, and also like you said, we've gotten very little from him, and we're kind of getting down to the nitty gritty. And we look at the people left in the game, we have very little content from a lot of them.
Very true.
So yeah, I don't know. It was good. I'm glad that I'm glad that we got that content, and it's not common that we get people like speaking that candidly about like their own kind of like inner emotions and thoughts on Survivor, especially recently.
That shit was deep. Like,
yeah,
and there's no like there's no easy way to evaluate like that
Mm-hmm.
situation. I mean, he grew up without a dad. He's perfectly within his right to have, you know, feelings like that, and
Mm-hmm.
it's just tough.
Yeah. Just like the talk of like the kind of implicit, like unfair kind of resentment
Mm-hmm.
about just like not having it. Yeah, it's a lot of like
And being
really.
like conscious that it's like, yes,
Yeah,
this isn't fair, but it's also how I feel. So
yeah,
yeah, uh,
yeah. No, it's yeah, really really dark, but also like really, you know, uh, really good to be able to kind of get those thoughts and have him able to tell that story.
mm,
Yeah, one of the nice parts of the episode, in my opinion. And like I said, like
yes,
the episode overall, like very strong outside of the
mm,
dumb twist.
yeah. At least it didn't end up being the reason someone went home. I mean, it was the reason someone went home who wouldn't have otherwise, but at least it didn't. At least
Yeah,
there's a
yeah.
vote, is what I'm trying to
Right,
say.
right, right. Yeah. Again, when we talk about dumb twists, I
Mm,
always bring up like there's if there's a twist and there's two options and the options are it works and it sucks or it doesn't work and it's a flop, you know it's a bad twist. And again, this is an example of that where if it works, it sucks because we're like losing Deshaun, who is like one of the probably two front runners to win the game,
mm,
in like a really stupid way. When it would have been like way more rewarding to see him get voted out.
mm.
Uh, and again, if what happened, which is the twist flopped, then it's literally inconsequential. Or like inconsequential beyond the fact that we had two immunities that
Mm,
likely played into the vote.
right.
So, yeah, just again, we really, have to reiterate. It's not difficult to evaluate if a twist is bad. It's just like very clear criteria.
Mm.
If you look at the twist and there's only two options and they're both bad options, the twist is bad.
Yeah, we heard Mike White said when you're making twists or you're designing the game, you have to ask yourself, is this fun? But the addition to that Mike didn't anticipate was like, does Jeff know what fun is? So that's an important question.
I
It
think
seems
that
no.
like I think that when you equate just like random chaos with fun, and it's like, oh, this is different. It mixes things up. It makes people think differently, right? That's not
Mm,
implicitly fun, right? And it's not
right.
implicitly interesting.
Mm,
If the way that people are thinking is just like trying to negate randomness
mm,
as much as possible. Um, because like removing agency from the players just makes the storylines weaker.
yeah.
Pretty much just 100% of the time. Like there's like very rare occasions where that's not the case.
Mm,
Um, so yeah, I think a better metric than like this kind of arbitrary and subjective metric of fun is what is the like optimal outcome for the twist
mm,
from like a television and game theory perspective. And if there is no optimal outcome for the twist, it is a bad twist.
right. All right. So I guess really the big question post challenge is, will Erica
Yeah.
do something to establish herself as a, entity
Player.
within the game?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Which is also confusing because I saw on both Twitter and Reddit people speculating, oh, I wonder if Erica is going to get voted out. And I was like, wait, what? The entire setup of this is like very clearly between Ricard and Liana. Where is this like kind of Christy Smith situation coming from? Like nobody's even mentioned the idea of like, oh, let's just flip it on Erica, really, like in any
no,
serious capacity.
no one did at
So
all.
I don't
I
I don't
mean,
know why that was a thing that people were bringing up.
yeah, one of the more crazy things I think was just like Xander sitting here with an advantage and an idol openly now. Like
Hmm.
people know about both. They knew about the idol. They know about the advantage for sure now, and didn't even come up. Didn't even come up as someone to get rid of.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, well, I think it's difficult. I think there's a few things going on that the show isn't really explaining very well.
mm,
My guess is the first thing is with a 4-3 split, you can't flush an idol really, so it doesn't matter.
mm,
Uh, 2 extra vote at this point in the game is like borderline worthless. And I think it's generally considered a worthless twist in most situations. There are like situations where it could have been useful, such as the final 10, where he could have saved Evie and decided not to. But instead he was able to save it for this tribal council, where he threw it away.
It was way more worth him voting for Liana twice, Ben.
Yeah, yeah. 5-3 over 4-3, definitely a huge difference maker there. I guess the idea being, if Erica flips, he like puts her into a position, or I guess I guess he retains the extra vote. We've established now he retains the extra vote on the revote, and so there's 6 votes on the revote, and he controls 2 of them, and then Heather is 3, right? And then it's 3v3, and he basically like forces Erica to flip back or draw rocks, right?
Yeah.
That's kind of the idea, I guess, behind using it, but whatever.
Whatever. Yeah. That's a good way to put it. Whatever.
Yeah. I don't know. This was not the last time you could use it, right? Like, you could definitely use it next round as well.
That was my understanding. My understanding is that, like, these twists expire at 6 now.
Yeah.
But hey, could be wrong.
Well, the shot in the dark was the last time you could use shot in the dark, which was not used. It has gone the entire season being used once ineffectively. So really, really great twist we had there as well.
Really good. I mean, the only thing it kind of did good was force people to blindside each other.
Yeah, I think that was the meta idea behind it, which we mentioned I think last week, which is like, it forces every vote to be a blindside intrinsically, which is like what they want for flashy television.
Yeah.
So it gives people a strategic reason to blindside people outside of just being a dickhead about it.
Yeah. Is the idol alive at the final 5 or 6 now?
I don't know. It seems like it's not, because in the preview for next week, it sounded like they were making it seem like it was the last time you could use an idol at that vote. This upcoming one, which is the final 6. So maybe they changed it. Maybe they finally realized that like allowing idols to be played at final 5 and then having the final 4 fire making challenge twist is additionally stupid on top of the stupidity of the fire making twist.
Yeah, it's kind of because I think like Survivor Gabon, like the final 6 is like the only season where the final 6 is the last time you can use an idol, and then they just went back to 5 forever. But now with the fire making, I guess they're putting it back to 6, which I'm okay with, honestly.
Yeah, no, I think that's definitely. I think this is something that I brought up, when the fire making twist was added to begin with, which is like, the whole reason that the last time you can use it is at 5 is because then you still have the one extra clean vote at 4 to vote somebody out before the final tribal council. Yeah. But with fire making, that doesn't exist. So now if you push it back to 6, you still have the one clean vote at 5 where you can potentially vote out a threat, and the only thing that can save them is immunity.
Yeah. Far cry from sending Chris Underwood into the game at final 6 with an idol.
Yeah.
But,
No, I mean, look, if we're like bound to keep the fire making twist forever, right, I much prefer that there's at least a clean vote at 5 without
something tells me we are, considering we've only ever gotten fluke reasons to bring the final 2 back. I don't think we're going to go back to... Also, it's like the final 2 hasn't been used in like straight up nearly a decade at this point, so I feel like that's dead for good. So good stuff. 7
years, and it was because of medevacs and quits.
Yeah. Yeesh.
And the one before that was like 5 years before that, so not happening. But look, I'd be content to just get rid of the fire making and go to a normal final 3 at this point, but that's not happening either. So
yeah, right. It's almost like they're using this to get us to hate the fire twist so that they can be like, all right, we listened to you, fire twist is gone, and now you guys can stop complaining about the final 3 because you're just happy to have it back.
Yeah, just like make the game worse and worse and worse, so that when they like take a step back and make it less worse than they had previously made it, you're like, oh, this is good now.
Exactly. It's a
Yeah,
foolproof strategy.
yeah, yeah. Regardless, I don't know. What were your thoughts here? Because I guess this we could talk about Erica's decision, right? But if Xander is not on board, Erica's decision, if he's going to play the extra vote, doesn't actually matter. So there's not a ton of strategy to be talked about here, in my opinion. But I don't know if
Yeah.
you have any difference of opinion there.
No, I agree. I mean, it depends what she knew, but
Yeah.
I don't like it. It just never really seemed like to me that she was gonna go through with this personally.
Yeah.
Like when she was talking, I was like, sure, Erica. We'll see what happens.
Yep. No, yeah. I think the issue is, in my opinion, Erica's mind is in the right place. I do think, from her perspective, getting Ricard out in this vote is probably correct, especially if she can get Xander on board and have Xander with his extra vote and idol in the next vote, and they can actually use the extra vote in a useful way at 6 to actually retain a 4-3 advantage. And still have this kind of final 3 deal among the 3 of them, as like 3 of the, in my opinion, less likely people to win a jury vote at this point.
Right.
And I think that
very interesting final 3.
Yeah, and I think that in that case, like if Xander trusts that, that's also not a terrible path forward for Xander either. It allows him to actually use his extra vote at 7 in a way that matters, and the jury can look at that as his play to take out somebody like a Deshaun next week. And he still has an idol to get him to a final 4 potentially, where he basically only has to survive 1 round. So yeah, I don't know. I think that Erica probably missed a shot here that makes it impossible for her to win the season at this point. But she missed a shot in a position where she had very little agency, and I think the person with agency, Xander, probably missed a bigger shot.
Yeah, he was not doing it. Like, he was very, like, upfront, like, I have no intention of voting Ricard off. Like, I finally trust somebody in this game, and I feel like they trust me. Which, true, but you're going to lose to Ricard if you go to the final 3 with him, so keep that in mind.
Right. I think that the reason that we were hard on Ricard's decision last week was, one, because, as we just mentioned, basically, I think that we agreed that the other players made a mistake in not voting him out now. And 2, the issue we saw was that we couldn't perceive a path forward for Ricard. Obviously, we were incorrect, because it does seem like he does have a path forward. And he has somehow gotten Xander to trust him implicitly. I don't know when that happened. That was not shown to us at all.
Only the editors know, Ben.
Yeah, we just kind of have to believe that, Xander now decides to trust. I guess, because everybody else is paired up and Liana despises him, like, Ricard is the only person that he can feasibly work with. Right?
That sounds legit to me.
Yeah. Danny and Deshaun are a clear pair, and Erica and Heather are a clear pair. And every time that he has a conversation with Liana, it's clear that she would prefer him to be removed from the mortal coil. So by process of elimination, Ricard is the one person he can approach and strategically work with. So from that perspective, I guess it makes sense. But yeah,
we didn't know.
And we did not know, because it wasn't. It was not. It was very much told and not shown.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. I don't know what to say. I really don't know what to say about this episode from a strategic perspective. There's a lot to say about like a storytelling perspective, but I don't know.
So let's go to that, because there's really no meat on the bone here.
Yeah.
For strategy.
Yeah. All right. So we have this trial council, and this is like half of the episode at this point.
Yeah, it was like they went to try about 34 minutes, I think.
Yeah. It's been a running thing, I think, this season, is very early tribals, where they go to like a weird commercial break, and then they also do another commercial break during the
At
tribal.
Tribal, yeah.
Yeah, which is, I, yeah, I don't love it, but it's fine.
At least we're not like breaking up the votes like in Big Brother, where you have like
Yeah,
four people vote and then they come back.
that's true. Yeah, they could have easily done. Actually, did they do? They didn't do a. They no, they did the. It was during um, the Nasir boot, right? Where they did
Yeah,
a
where they
try,
went.
it's a commercial in between the vote and the revote.
Yep.
Um, that was bad.
Yes.
That
Yes,
was
that's
dumb.
bad.
But yeah, for the most part, it's fine. Yeah, I don't know. What do you want? Where do you want to start on this tribal council? I guess.
I think this tribal council was just like a perfect display of what the I think it's the Survivor Diversity Committee, right? That's what it was on Twitter, which was a bunch of POC former contestants who came together, came to CBS, and were like, "Look, we've been like put in, not just like bad numerical positions, but we feel that we've been portrayed in ways that are, stereotypical. And, while we appreciate obviously our time on the show, we feel like that should change." And it really, I really did strike a nerve with the people at CBS. The we talked about it coming into this season. The cast this season a lot like more diverse, and I think it shows like that was a great decision, because this cast, for all the shit we give the twists and how the game works, we've never said the cast is bad. The cast is really great, and
Yeah.
probably the only thing that keeps the season interesting with all like the bullshit. And then to have this very like open and frank discussion of not only where the players are within the game, but where we are as a country, as a society, I thought was like amazing. And we talk about it on the show. We're two white guys. So I'm trying to like express it as eloquently as possible, but like we talk about a show like we love Survivor because Survivor reflects the world we live in, whether it's like interpersonal struggles or bigger picture issues. And this was a really great moment that showed me like Survivor's, even at season 41, has a lot of story left to tell and a lot of important things to say.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good way to round it up. Yeah, I think Liana also, did a good job at the end of the tribal
Oh,
council, kind of
amazing,
rounding up
amazing. Yeah.
better than
Don't
we
fucking
could.
listen to me. Listen to Liana.
Yeah, I do also want to give credit because, like, while the diversity committee obviously put a lot of work into like lobby CBS production and CBS casting, uh, Big Brother Canada, and particularly
Yes,
Arissa
yes,
Cox, were the first
yes.
people to like kind of make this move going into BB Can 9 that we covered in the spring. And that was really the first kind of big North American reality competition show that met this kind of this diversity initiative. And a lot of that came from people like Ika speaking up about experiences that she had had working under the production company, like it was an Inven Global or whatever, that runs that like oversees like global TV and all of that. Um, and so a lot of that conversation started, and then obviously Arissa Cox was given the position of executive producer for BB Can. And we got BB Can 9, which was
So good.
phenomenal
Yeah.
season of reality television. And this is also coming off of the year of reality TV in last year in 2020, where BB Can 8 had issues with
Yeah.
problematic and potentially arguably racist contestants, and then we had also BB 21 the year before,
Yeah.
where there was pretty clear and obvious examples of bigotry and racism on that season, with people of color being targeted early on. And then obviously, like in Survivor, it's been brought up a lot that
Mm.
it's become a trend, especially within the last decade or so of the show, as opposed to the earlier seasons,
Mm.
where like the earlier seasons also had their own issues as well.
Sure,
But it's
of
become more
course.
and more of a statistical trend that people of color are targeted earlier more often.
Mm.
Uh, so yeah, it's it's definitely a step in the right direction. And I thought the conversation was really good. My only issue with it was, to me, Jeff is not great in a lot of ways. Um, he does a good job at certain aspects of his job at Survivor,
Mm.
but in a lot of instances where he interacts with the cast, at least for me, it kind of comes off as kind of like an alien anthropologist, like doing kind of surface level examination of
Mm.
like his learnings on the interactions of human beings, and then
Mm.
just making like kind of weird comments about it. I don't know. I think it's just how Jeff is, and
Mm.
he just like is always in like talk show mode or in like host mode or in executive
Mm.
producer mode,
Right.
and it definitely does not come off as like super humanizing and organic. But the cast themselves and the contestants have done a good
Mm.
job.
Yeah. No, for sure. And I just hope that like Liana said, they're going to be, and like you can just see it on Twitter right now or on the Survivor Facebook page if you really
Right.
want to you know slam your head into a wall. That might
Yeah.
be preferable than going to the Survivor Facebook page. Quite frankly, there are going to be people who don't want to hear this. They think that it has no place within this show, but like the whole like point of Survivor is this stuff, so that never really makes sense to me when people are like, I don't want to see this because like, yeah, it's a game and it's certainly gotten more game body as the years have gone on, but like part of it was they're gonna be forced to create a new society, and that society is gonna be a reflection of the society that we all live in, and like like Xander said, as a white person, you don't have to consider these things when you go into these games. You don't. You just go in and you're yourself. You represent yourself, and that's it. And it's a privilege to be able to do that. And in the same way that it's a privilege for people to complain about this being brought up on the show. And so I hope that Xander saying that on the show and Liana, putting it how she put it, which was really great, it will change at least somebody's mind. But of course, it's not going to reach everybody, which is unfortunate.
Yeah, and this isn't even new for Survivor either. Like these are
Mm.
conversations that have happened on the show. Like even looking back at a season like Cook Islands, which
Mm.
has a lot of issues with the way that race was dealt on that season. The twists not great. And I talked about this at length. I went on mutual friend Naomi Calhoun's podcast, Mike Wright Was Robbed, where I talked heavily about Cook Islands on that episode.
Mm.
And with my hot take of Becky Lee was robbed.
She is
Um,
justice for Becky.
yeah, it's a hot takes podcast, and I talk heavily about how that season was in many ways very uncomfortable because the show like basically kind of turns race into like a circus act in a lot of
Mm.
ways. But even on that season, there are really good scenes and conversations and confessionals that happen. Like for instance, Yule has very good moments where he talks about how, like especially with the way the season is structured, he has troubles being able to come in and play Survivor the way that he intended to want to play it
Mm.
because in the back of his mind he's thinking about, oh, I'm being put on the Asian tribe, right? So I'm representing the way that America perceives like Asian stereotypes, and if
Mm.
I play like a game that reflects in a negative way and correlates with this idea that people have about negative stereotypes about Asian people, that's going to reflect poorly upon the community that I'm part of. And that was something that he struggled very heavily with throughout the season. And he talks about that on the show as he's playing the game and playing like a very very well executed cutthroat game. So like this is not a new conversation about like the way that race and racism and like perception of race within society affects the gameplay of Survivor. It's just like I don't know. Maybe it's just because like it's become polarized within like recent like cultural conversation uh, in a way that's like very politicized, particularly recently. Obviously, it's historically also been very politically polarizing as well.
Right.
That like people suddenly have a problem with it, but like I don't think many people had a problem with it when Yule was having like those candid conversations and confessionals back then. And it's basically the exact same conversation now, where you have this like societal pressure to represent the community in a certain way, and if you don't, like you have that additional pressure on your gameplay as you're playing the game, and Deshaun kind of basically like laid that out pretty well in my opinion.
No, totally agree. And I just hope that some of the people who don't want to hear it are open to hearing it, because we're not going to move forward unless those people start, opening their ears,
right,
appreciating the situation for what it is.
Right, and my even like the point of bringing that up too, like the people complaining about it are like, in my opinion, just like not aware of Survivor history, right? Like they're acting like the people I've seen complaining about it are acting like this is some new thing that's brought in with Survivor 41, and like, oh, Survivor's trying to be so woke now. This is like a new thing that they're trying to do and like force this conversation to happen. But it's literally not. It's straight up not.
I know WrestleHeads had like a big thing about the come on in guys, come on in situation. If he's gonna, I don't know if he is, but if he's one of these people who are like this, when he was sitting there when Jason was explaining the difficult situation he was being put in on his season, like, then there's no hope.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's I don't know. I just don't understand. I don't like the people who are complaining. I feel like I have either not seen Survivor before, right? Or they're just like being intentionally obtuse to like come up with a reason to be upset. Because these are not new conversations. This is not new territory that the show is exploring. It's just that because the cast is so diverse, there has been more opportunities for these explorations to come up and be relevant within the storyline of the show.
Right. Yeah. So from real like important stuff to I guess the bullshit twist, right?
Oh my god.
All right, Ben. So do you want to explain the Monty Hall problem?
Not really. I mean, you just look at
No, I don't.
I don't want to be outing anybody, but in a conversation that we had before the podcast, I already had to explain the Monty Hall problem, and it's really not easy to explain without like kind of visual aids. I feel are extremely helpful. Yeah,
like Ben said, you can look it up. Long story short, Sean made the incorrect choice in terms of probability, but he lucked out and was safe.
Yeah. So the way the Monty Hall problem works and ends up, when you're given the choice to keep or to swap, it's statistically correct to swap. You go from a 1 in 3 chance to getting the good outcome to a 2 out of 3 chance of getting the good outcome. Deshaun decided to keep the 1 in 3 odds and forego the doubling of his chances of being correct, but was lucky that his incorrect decision had the results-oriented outcome of him being safe.
Yes. So,
yeah.
I mean, I'm happy with it, obviously. I spend too much of my life thinking about and watching game shows and all this stuff, so I would have picked probably wrong here and gone out. So
Xander clearly realized it was Monty Hall problem. He whispered it to Danny or whoever, or Liana or whoever he was whispering it to. So like obviously there were people in the game who would have, at least Xander would have likely made the incorrect decision by doing the correct thing.
Mm-hmm.
I also, like it's just it's completely, like mindless for me. Like obviously, you just like do the strategically correct or statistically correct
Yeah,
thing,
right.
and if it doesn't work out, like
You
whatever,
can feel
right?
actually good.
If
You
you
can
go
feel
all if you
wrong.
go all in with pocket aces versus pocket kings, and they
Mm,
flop trip kings, like what are you supposed to do? You had the 90% win. Like
yeah.
it's just, yeah. You
Oh
can't,
man.
in Survivor, I guess now with all of these like game theory 101 bullshit,
Mm,
just like with poker or any other strategy game that has a luck element, you can only make as well decisions as you can, and then whatever happens, happens.
exactly. So Liana voted out 5-3. I we've been through it. Why Xander probably played his vote, or we could just be giving Xander too much credit. Who's to say? Um, but
I think that was, I don't think that's too much credit. I think that's the reason. Because there's no other reason to do it. And
right.
we did see a clip of him talking to Ricard being like, yeah, I think Erica might.
Yeah. So good on Xander in that case. Do you want to eulogize your winner pick here?
I mean, I've been out on Liana winning for
Of course. Yeah.
at least a few weeks now at this point.
Mm-hmm.
We thought that the storyline was kind of setting her up to be a losing finalist.
Mm-hmm.
But it seems like that third place losing finalist might be Heather at this point.
Yeah, we thought Heather would be the victim of this twist and actually go
Yes.
out. So
Yeah.
now
Yeah.
it does seem
Yeah.
to be
Again,
Heather.
this twist was heavily spoiled.
Mm,
I don't know. I don't know how many people who are listening were spoiled on this twist. At least the existence of the twist, not the
mm,
outcome or like
right.
who got it or whatever. But the existence of the twist was heavily spoiled. And so Brian and I had, quietly speculated that we assumed that Heather was getting such a garbage edit because she was going to be eliminated by this twist, and the producers didn't want us to care about Heather, so that when she was eliminated by the stupid twist, it would not, reflect poorly on the storytelling of the show. We
Mm,
were wrong, and they're just giving Heather a bad edit for presumably no reason.
mm.
So,
Hey, is what it is.
yeah.
And yeah, so bye, Liana. You know.
Yeah, no, I mean, look, I didn't think she was going to win after
Mm,
a certain point. I don't know. Again, the pick I wanted to make was this round anyways. I don't know if
yeah.
I would have made a pick on any of the people left in the game. I think Erica was somebody else I was heavily considering other than Evie and Liana.
Mm,
But I thought that Erica was going to be more like outwardly villainous than she has been,
right. Yeah. Yeah.
whereas she's kind of been like pointed out occasionally as, oh, Erica's sneaky. She's very crafty and good at the game, even though she's done nothing to demonstrate
Yeah.
that.
Right.
Which if we're talking about like the discussion of like people of color and like this discussion we had at Tribal Council, it was very odd that both Xander and Heather were given airtime to talk about this, and neither Ricard or Erica were.
No, they were not.
Particularly when, as if you want to again go check out the podcast I did with Naomi about Becky Lee, but there is, and we've seen this in Survivor historically, kind of implicit stereotypes about Asian women being like sneaky, even when there's no,
No
not
reason for it.
little
Yeah.
to no actual verifiable evidence to back those claims up. Maybe there are that we're just not being shown because we're not being shown a lot about Erica, and the stuff that we have shown has been like her trying to play the game and failing,
Mm,
which to me would indicate that she's not a threat. But maybe that's just I don't know about that. If somebody's particularly trying hard to play and like be strategic and it's falling flat on its face every time, that would to me indicate they're not necessarily number one
mm,
Survivor player. But
right.
what do I know?
Oh man. All right. So final six now. Anybody's game, honestly, at this point.
Mm.
Well, yeah, with some exceptions.
Yeah,
I don't
well,
know who's gonna win, is what I'm saying at this point.
sure.
I'm hopeful
I
Deshaun will win, but I'm leaning more toward Ricard with each passing episode.
Yeah. Well, I do think that we are going to get our 37th consecutive male winner, regardless. Uh,
Yeah, I think that's a safe bet. You know, Survivor's not really interested in doing anything to even that up, it appears. In fact, the only make things easier for men to get to the end and then win. So
well, they removed the word "guys" from the lexicon, which is a huge
that's
step
true.
towards leveling
Yeah.
out the playing field.
Mission accomplished.
Yeah. As we referenced in our podcast about episode 1, which is that it's while potentially a noble idea, if not backed up by actions to make the game more egalitarian for women, not really actually
No,
meaningful.
not doing
Um,
much.
yeah. So yeah, I agree. I think that Ricard or Deshaun at this point are winning the season. Uh, at this point, strategically and from an edit perspective, I agree. I'm leaning towards Ricard. Uh, I think this was the vote where he needed to get through, right? Like this was like, as we mentioned last week, the war dog position of like, he made the move and now he has to survive the repercussions of the move. And if he does that, he's like on the path to victory, and
Yes.
like it's his game to lose.
Mm.
So yeah, that's my take. I think that if we talk about Ricard as the winner, I think that you know he'll probably be like a flawed but overall good winner from what we've seen. I think
Right.
it'll be an interesting conversation to have in the
Yeah.
finale.
Yeah, I mean,
If the
I'd be
outcome.
down. I'd be down for a card win, especially with how rough people were on him for being like, yeah, I think we should drop the come on in guys. From
Mhm,
that moment to now, that'd be great.
mhm.
If only because it would piss off people who I find annoying on
Yeah,
Twitter.
yeah. I guess anything else you want to talk about the merge idol coming into play at the last possible minute next week potentially?
Yeah, I mean, I did not think it existed.
Yeah.
So, surprise, surprise.
Well, to be fair, two people did go out back to back with idols in
Hmm.
their pockets, or like
Yeah.
semi back to back with idols in their pockets. So it's not like ridiculous. I think for them to have had an extra idol in the game,
Mm.
I do think it is going to be potentially uh, like halfway to an advantage getting, with
Mm.
presumably half of the cast safe, with
Yeah.
Xander having his idol still at 6, the person winning immunity if it's not Xander or the person who finds the merge idol, and then the person who finds the merge idol. So we might get a random boot at 6, or we might get like again a Liana situation where like the third biggest target ends up going home.
Mm.
So yeah.
Yeah, I honestly, in Survivor production, will not listen to this, so it doesn't fucking matter. I'm just talking to you, Ben, and our audience. But we should just like have a rule, like, all right, if we have 3 pre-merge idols, we don't put any back in until all 3 are played, and if we don't have any of them played by a certain point, then it's just like none are coming back in the game because it
Yeah.
gets too messy.
Right.
Um,
Yeah, I agree. I think that like it's weird because Survivor played around with some like alterations on the way that idols and advantages could work in like the 35 to 36 era
mm,
ish, where they had like these timed advantages, which is like, oh, you have 2 rounds to play this idol or advantage, otherwise it's voided.
mm,
And I think that like while kind of clunky, that's probably better than allowing 2 to 3 idols to get into the end game.
right. I mean, I say this as someone who's like hosted LRGs where No idols have been played at a certain point, and there's still a hidden idol, and I've gone and just taken the hidden idol out of the hiding place because I was like, this is too messy, and if no one's going to be playing these advantages, then like I can't have the game dictated entirely by advantages.
Yeah, and I mean, to be fair, at this point, no idol, like everybody has gone home with an idol in their pocket except for Xander, who retains his, and all of the advantages that have been played have been like marginally wasted. So like there's basically been like no idols or advantages that have had like tangible direct impact on the outcome of a vote. Like obviously there's like secondary impacts that have happened based off of people like shifting the way they think about strategy, but
Right.
It's been like, given how many knickknacks have been thrown into the game, it's been surprisingly clean.
Yeah, and we didn't think that'd be the case earlier this season, so
Yeah.
we're wrong again.
Yeah, I guess anything else before we wrap up here? We've hit our hour mark, so we've reached our quota.
Yeah, I mean, kind of playing off that. Jeff, please do a season where there are no idols, but you don't tell the cast there are no idols, just because that'd be fun.
Everyone always talks about how that would be so funny.
It would be great. It would be great.
It would be funny, yeah.
Yeah, people play like bluffing with fake idols, and
Yeah, that's like,
really great.
That's the way, like, that would accomplish what the Shot in the Dark accomplishes, but it wouldn't introduce a confusing game mechanic that ends up not mattering for the entire season.
Yeah. The show just loves scavenger hunts, I guess. They can't get enough of them.
Yeah. Very interesting. Different, well, I guess at the very least, the show can at least acknowledge when some interesting social dynamic and strategic stuff happens occasionally. But they also equivalently love the scavenger hunts.
You're right.
So.
Oh, man. I guess anything else? Make sure you subscribe to our main channel because if you're a Survivor fan, I think you're going to like the next video I got planned for probably 2 weeks from tonight, the same night as Survivor finale night. Well, it'll be up during the day because you got to watch Survivor and then you got to watch us. So don't want to overlap. But yeah, get some plans on the youtube.com/wikieverything channel.
Yeah, for sure. And then, you can always find Brian on your Twitter.
Yes,
the Fake Bmar.
The Fake Bmar. It's BMARR, 2 R's.
Yep.
Just like 2 B's.
Yeah.
Finally did a really obscure callback reference. Didn't.
Yeah. To be clear to the viewers,
others.
there's not 2 B's in the handle. It's a Rob's Backnick reference.
Yes, right.
You don't want people getting too confused. As we've referenced, there are new Survivor fans who have not seen all of the previous seasons that reference things that are also being referenced this season. Then you can also follow me on Twitter at Ben Sharon. I've not been active on Twitter recently. I've taken a step back from Twitter for the last few months.
That's healthy.
For my mental health, 100%. Like basically since the end of Big Brother, because I tweeted a little bit about Big Brother, but also there was like very little to tweet about Big Brother at a certain point. So I think like the second double eviction of Big Brother, or maybe the finale of Big Brother, was probably the last time I tweeted. Really, I don't know. So you can follow me there. Big Brother CBB US 3 is around the corner. I'm sure I'll live tweet about that when that comes through. Yeah, and you can follow the main channel on Twitter at WG Everything, and then on other social medias at Wicked Get Everything on Facebook, Twitch, TikTok, Instagram, and also on the main YouTube channel, as Brian mentioned. You can also find Brian on Wicked Good Sports. He likes to mention that a lot. There's a bunch of sports videos that are coming out in the next few days that I've seen queued up. Some today, I think, some tomorrow, maybe some the next day.
Yeah, we had 2 today, and then it's 2 tomorrow, so 5 this week.
Yep.
Just grinding.
A lot of good stuff coming out. And then obviously this channel is Better Radio. This is our podcast channel. Otherwise, this is The Blindsiders on all major podcasting platforms. We'll be back next week for our second to last episode of Survivor and of the podcast. And in 2 weeks from now, we have our finale of Survivor 41.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
It came so quick, man.
Very quick. The season was quick for the contestants, and it flew by for us as well.
So you're going to want to stay here. We got it all happening.
Otherwise, we'll see you next week.
Bye, everyone.